The sitting is resumed. Member for the City of Bridgetown.
Nigel, you given notice?
The city has been resumed. The city is resumed.
Yes.
So, member for the city.
Government notice is recommitted.
Member for the City of Bridgetown.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to give notice of a supplementary in the sum of $3,565,744 to be granted from the Consolidated Fund and be placed at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2019-2020 as shown in the supplementary estimates number 1-2 of 2019-2020, which form the schedule to this resolution.
As you wish. Government business, know the order be there.
Move the appointment of
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that the honorable member for St. Michael West Central will become temporary acting chairman of committees for the remainder of the day sitting.
We have a seconder, please. Question is that the member for St. Michael West Central be temporary chairman of committees. All members in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it.
I beg to move that the House resolves itself into Standing Finance Committee.
The question is that the House resolve itself in the Standing Finance Committee. All members in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. I don't know, Lady Chair.
Thank you. Ready? Ready? You ready? Yeah. The House is in Standing Finance Committee.
Supplementary resolution, supply the estimates number year 2019-2020 in the sum of $3,565,744. Head 82 in the sum of $748,000 in the name of the Minister of Environment and National Beautification.
The Honourable Member for Mike Lease.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair, or Mr. Chair. The request is for the sum of $748,800. This is the expenditure for a number of workers that we brought on a month ago, on which we intend to continue the service at the NCC. This is a national cleanup program, and we have touched every strategic area across Barbados. Because of the challenges in relation to financial constraints, the workers will remain employed until the end of the financial year, and and beyond. But we made an adjustment from the original position that we took because of these challenges, and the workers will now work week on, yes, but I'm not saying that they will work week on, week off, down to the end of the financial year, and from there on, we will continue. Sir, as you are fully aware, right across the national landscape, as a consequence of negligence across Barbados, the entire country was overrun by bush. And the challenges which we faced and are still facing, but obviously we are seeing signs of mitigation and to some extent total eradication of some of these problems, is because over the years the cleaning programs were reduced substantially. across Barbados. And because of this position which we inherited and which we have been wrestling with, on the challenges which we have had in terms of finance, we could not do it as intensively as one would have expected us to go about the cleanup exercise. But to some extent, as a consequence of the reduction of the pressures on the economy and having more finance at our disposal, we definitely had to make sure that persons, especially who are economically vulnerable, we had to ensure that we find some means of incorporating or integrating them back into the mainstream of our national workforce. And therefore, this humane effort was twofold. One, to clean up the state, and secondly, to ensure that we gradually we reduce the unemployment levels across Barbados. And we applied a methodology that can be considered to be equitable, and we made sure that people from right across the national base, all over Barbados, would become participants in this exercise. And regardless of how difficult the situation is, the focus that undergird the thinking of the government, as you know, is always that the people that are likely to suffer the most are the people that we should always take into consideration in any kind of economic expansion, as well as to help bring about some level of social stability across Barbados. So it's on that basis that we reintroduced this program. And as I said, we did it in a very just manner, unlike other persons who try to do something of a similar nature in a very knee-jerk and indifferent way. We decided that we will do this. And based on the results that the whole country can observe. I know most of the times when something looks injurious, or when something looks relatively ugly on the landscape, or when it can create some level of social disorder, people seem to recognize that this type of behavior, this type of action always become more visible than when something is happening in the society that brings it as close as possible to a living paradise. And I believe that wherever you drive across Barbados now, all the conversations that you heard, to some extent almost contemptuous, about the manner in which the ministry and the government was functioning, those conversations overnight subside. And if you drive through St. John, if you drive through St. Joseph, if you drive through St. Lucie, if it is as though the whole country has been transformed into full urbanization. And I use urbanization in the context that almost all over Barbados today, you can see the results of this money that is being well spent on the Barbadian general public. Along with that, sir, outside of this department, we also have what is happening in terms of the cleanup program that extends itself beyond NCC into the SSA. And all of these things work simultaneously as the manner in which this government is operating. So you're not hearing any talk about Bush. You're not hearing any talk about race. You're not hearing any talk about trucks. Simple topics that men felt that they could ride the back of the subject matter and come to a point where they become significant individuals speaking on national governance in Barbados. Although everybody knew exactly what our challenges were, they felt that it's best to hold on a subject like this and to make it a whipping boy in order to give themselves some level of political relevance. And as soon as we were able to not only get this cleanup program off the ground, but also to have the required necessary trucks, you had no criticism about the government to make after that. You had no criticism, or they ought not to have any criticism about the management of the institutions.
Especially the Bush program.
The conversation has to switch, and they now have to look for something else. Create a false premise in order to impress upon the Barbadian public they are doing something. Nobody don't know about any formal structure for any opposition party. A party that once exists, and it only exists at present in the imagination of people, every now and then, when one of them believes that they have escaped from public scrutiny, when they believe that there's nothing that likely to be unearthed overnight that will make them run under a rock, limited as they are, they send for the individual who, to this date, we are not in a position to be able to identify, but we have reasonable grounds for suspicion of many felonies. I would like to make a prediction that I really believe that that party who put us in this state, I believe that it is no more, that party is dead. I cannot see how a party can make statements about the development of Barbados, who has done so many wicked things to underdevelop the country itself. In the meantime, through tough times, they are living comfortable. Sir, I give you the assurance, and I give this House the assurance, that as we go into 2020, 2021, the new financial year, I would not only report to you what you should know in relation to the challenges, but you will be better able to look into the political mirror and see the nature of the contribution that this party is making and will make in the new financial year. I am not going to reveal those things to you today, but as we go forward, even the areas that you witness today and believe that better can't be done, I give you the assurance that we will move much further in the physical and environmental transformation of Barbados, and that the people can feel a sense of pride in selecting this institution in the midst of crisis to bring it from the depths of hell and allow people to live in a paradise once more. Sir, I beg that head. Yes, I beg that this head 82. And before I get to that, and I can't talk about a cleanup program and just stick to direct relevance to this request. There are a number of departments, and all of the departments fall underneath the Ministry of the Environment and National Beautification. We have had, apart from what is happening across the island in terms of the debushing program, we also had hundreds of derelict vehicles all across Barbados. And when you have derelict vehicles and derelict houses, it is not only an ugly sight or environmental challenge, but it is also a health challenge. The ministry has been working assiduously to address all of those problems. Wherever we identify derelict homes, and we take the appropriate action in advance, and we recognize that there are no real challenges to the removal of the houses or the removal of the vehicles, we take action as soon as possible. We obviously know that we have some challenges in relation to, not with the houses so much, but with the derelict vehicles.
Thank you.
And lots of the agencies that, especially with derelict vehicles, lots of the agencies that are responsible for helping us to get rid of this type of waste, those agencies are also experiencing their challenges because the agencies are not consummate recycling units. So the agencies have to depend on external markets to be able to rid themselves of the same derelict vehicles. And we have had a number of them over the years piled at a number of these units. Those are issues that this government must address, and we will address these issues. So we've been the private ownerships are always looking for external markets in order to export these derelict vehicles, and they try to, in some cases, reduce them from being bulky in order to ship more and more out of the island. If they're not challenges with ships, there's challenges on the external market where, for example, China, for some reason or the other, might put a hold on some form of waste at a specific time. What happens to us because of our limited geography is that we have an accumulation of this waste. So obviously, the government has to take that into consideration, and working in collaboration with the private sector, we will have to look at genuine recycling plants as we go forward. You're going to see some improvement as well in the area of the collection of municipal waste. And I give you the assurance, when we were experiencing the problems with trucks, for the sanitation department, I gave you the assurance that during that time, we will go one step at a time, because it was impossible at that time for us to impose upon citizens the idea of the separation of waste at source. We were making a fundamental change in the culture of the people of Barbados. And we have had a number of pilot studies in relation to the separation of waste. And the kind of sociological approach that we applied was based on seeing how people respond in different social, economic areas to the experiment. And on one occasion when we carried out those experiments, we recognized that there was a necessity to at least include people in a national debate as a form of education, use the informal media, use all sources that are required to at least explain to people why separating the waste at source is so important. And that discussion is one that I believe ought to be continued. And if anybody wants to make a meaningful contribution, I'm not saying you don't go back on the history of the challenges that we have faced with waste, but you can elevate the debate to something that is of greater substance if you also engage us in where we ought to go within the constraints of the limitations which we were speaking about. We're going to have a debate on how we are going to help working class people in the various households, taking into account as well the demographics of certain communities, and how we are going to go about making available to these people bins in the various households across Barbados. The burden will either fall on the individuals or the burden will eventually fall on the state. And if the state can't carry the weight, the state will have to enter into some discussions with the private sector or other parties so that we can make this a reality. If we begin to think in that manner, I'm going to come home. If we begin to think in that manner, sir, we'll be able to develop a humane society where people of all different social types, all different groups in the society, businesses, NGOs, civil society in general, the government and everything would recognize this is a small state, and sometimes we just can't carry the full burden. We're full of ideas, we know what we have to do, but at the end of the day, sometimes these burdens are at the point that they are at, not because we don't know any better, but we can't do any better at this specific time because of finance, because of the availability of capital, whether it is equipment, whatever, right? But I want to give you the assurance that what you're seeing coming from the NCC and what you're seeing coming from the Ministry of the Environment is not a phenomenon acting in total distinction from the general governance of Barbados. It is all underpinned by humanitarian thoughts. And I want to ask this Honorable House to that this head 82 Stan Park.
Thank you. The honourable member for St. Michael South.
The many young people who did tremendous work under his guidance in making Barbados extremely clean as we enter the year 2020. Indeed, sir, we would all have to agree that Barbados now stands significantly cleaner than it has stood in the last many years. I would also say, Mr. Chairman, sir, that if there's one thing that has gained and sustained the attention of this cabinet, and definitely the attention of the Prime Minister, it is ensuring that Barbados becomes the cleanest society and country, not only in the Caribbean, sir, but in the world. And it meant for us, sir, as we started the year 2020, 2020 symbolizes a year of vision for all of us. You know, as we get older, we would like to have 2020 vision. But it symbolizes, sir, being able to see, and to see clearly. You can't do that, sir, if you're standing face to face with a bunch of mess and grass and bush in a society, sir, and a country, sir, that is not clean. I also recall when we introduced this measure, sir, we said from the start that we would, in the first instance, work every week as we put all of our resources toward making sure that we could do in the shortest possible time, bring Barbados to some cleanliness, and then thereafter, week on, week off. A kind of systematic stabilization, sir, where we would allow people to work and to eat, sir, but at the same time, remedy a situation where we saw Barbados looking extremely untidy. And it has almost come to pass, sir, in Barbados. You know, if you leave something down long enough, if you take your hands off of something, there is a theory. I mentioned it in here before in social policy called the broken window theory. If you allow one window to be broken in a house and you don't fix it, then you allow a second window to be broken in a house, you don't fix it. A third, a door, the side fall off. Eventually, sir, because you've allowed it to get out of hand in the first place by not fixing the first window, sir, the whole place falls to pieces. And then the neighbor, realizing that you've done that, then he doesn't feel the need, sir, to do the same thing. And then eventually, sir, the whole place falls to ruin. And in the last 10 years, sir, we saw a lot of that. But we have said, sir, that we want to come and make wrong things right. So what we have done, sir, in a way, is to reverse that broken window theory. If you start to repair, and you've seen it, sir, you clear a street, a person is more likely to paint their house, plant a garden. You start working on the street, sir, you elevate the area, people will start to elevate their houses and their environments. So that in so doing, we not only clear the bush or a street, sir, but we elevate the entire society. We elevate, sir, the way Barbados is poised, the way Barbados is seen. You know, I come in my job as Minister of the Port, responsible for the port, in contact with tourists all the time. Many of them have lamented the state that Barbados has fallen into. It's a fact. Many have lamented the state Barbados has fallen into because, as you know, sir, we have, you would know for sure, Mr. Chairman, sir, that we have a lot of repeat tourists. They know Barbados. So they have been lamenting the state at which Barbados has fallen into, the complete lack of repair in some of our institutions, the streets, the grass, just the way it looks, sir. And if they who come once in a while could see it, those of us who live here, sir, would know it. We also have a responsibility, those of us who reside in the best country in the world, sir, to take care of the country in which we live. And I am therefore very thankful for this program that has seen over the last few weeks, sir, our ability to make the country look cleaner. But beyond making it look cleaner, sir, I feel that we are also righting a social wrong. We are making a social wrong, sir, right. We are adjusting it. There are a number of young people who are on this program, sir, who would tell you, I'm sure they've told the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, the member for St. Michael West, when they